We officially did it. We finished our first ever half Ironman, 70.3 in Oceanside. And today I'm going to break down everything that happened during race day, what went right, what went wrong, and everything leading up to it, and what's next. Oceanside 70.3 was the event for me. It was something that I wanted to aim towards. And honestly, I got the idea because Kendall's uncle finished it. And he did that, I don't know, in 2021 or 2022. And I've been thinking about doing triathlons for a while, but never really made the jump. I did a Olympic distance triathlon last September, and I was hooked. We're going to start off with the day before race day. So we got to Oceanside on Friday around 12 or 1 o'clock. I kind of wish we checked in on Thursday instead, or to book our hotel on Thursday, just so that we can get settled and walk around Ironman Village and know where everything's at. Having to go pick up our backpack, athlete check-in, pick up our stickers, our bibs, our tracking device, and then find out where we need to check in the bike, in addition to making sure we make it to the athlete briefing. It was just a lot. After we figured out that whole debacle, we ended up going to a Italian place for dinner, just carb loading, and slept as early as possible. I think I was in bed by 9 o'clock, and I had multiple alarms set for 4 a.m. Thankfully, I was able to sleep, and I woke up feeling super energized. On race day, I woke up around 3:30, and I felt pretty well rested, honestly. Just getting 5-6 hours of sleep. I felt pretty good. I thought that was a win. I was able to have a successful bowel movement. I know that might be TMI, but for me, I absolutely dread having to use the restroom on race day. And so if I can have that in the morning, I'm happy. And, I was able to do that. So that was another win for me. And then I just started my morning routine, getting some stretching in and making sure I had everything ready to go. Luckily, our hotel was walking distance from the start line or from the transition zone. I think it was like a 10-15 minute walk. And so making sure I had everything in my bag so that I don't have to walk back to the hotel. That would have sucked. But I was able to get in about 90 grams of carbs to start the morning and let that settle before race starts at, I think, like 7 o'clock. And so around 6 o'clock, we started heading down to the start line. I think transition area closes at 6:30. So we had 30 minutes to set up our bikes, get our nutrition on our bikes, set up our transitions for the bike and the run, and just really get ready for the day and setting up the day correctly. And so, the morning was super smooth. As soon as 6:30 rolled around, they started making announcements to exit the transition zones and head towards the swim chutes. And it was a long line. If you've been in a marathon before, it's kind of like having pacers with the sticks with your pace. The swim is the exact same way. And I was towards the 1:30 to 2 minute pace. Just conservatively, I want to make sure that I pace myself correctly, because I don't want to be a slow swimmer in a fast pace, because then people will just swim over me. And then I didn't want to set myself too slow of pace so that I can't get around people if I'm swimming faster. In the pool, I'm about 130 to 145 per 100 yards. And so I figured, with open water, with tons of people, I'm going to situate myself around 145 to 2 minutes per 100 yards. And I think I slotted myself accurately. The only thing is, if you're not in the chute as soon as people start lining up and you are a fast swimmer, you're going to have to pass a ton of people. But I think people were pretty civil. I think whoever was like locked in for the group, like for us, we were at the 145 to 2 minutes. We stood on the right, and then everyone on the left side of the rails were able to move forward to like the faster pace times. And so the swim started at 7 o'clock. The race was supposed to start at 7 o'clock. I don't think we got into the water until 8 o'clock. All the pros started at 7 o'clock, and that was kind of cool to see because it was a pro series race. All these triathletes that I follow on Instagram, we saw them run past us as soon as they finished the swim. But then, yeah, it took us a good amount of time to get into the water. Had I known, I would have held on to my gel a lot longer until we actually started moving, until I actually saw the swim chute. I would have just eaten my 30 grams of carbs right there, rather than eating it and then drinking water and then standing for another hour. And so that's definitely a lesson for me. But once it was our turn to enter the swim chute, they were letting people go like every 3 seconds, if that. I think it was just like wave, you let them swim like 2 strokes, and then they send the next wave. And so it's pretty fast. And for me, the swim was absolutely horrible. I couldn't see at all. It wasn't that foggy or that dark, but for some reason, as soon as I got in the water, I couldn't see anything. As soon as I entered, I had to pull off to the side to clean my goggles. I tried spitting in my goggles, and I had a little water bottle with me, and I rinsed it off before getting into the water. But as soon as I hit the water, like, it fogged up again. And so maybe for the first 200 yards after that, I was cruising, and then it all went downhill from there. The buoys were really hard to see. There's so many people in the water. All the water splashing is really tough to see, even though these, the buoys are bright yellow and orange buoys. I had a hard time sighting. It's definitely one of the weak points of my training. I hope to do more open water swimming. But yeah, just being able to sight in open water and swim in a straight line was tough. I ended up having to use my legs more than I wanted to. I ended up having to flip on my back just because I don't know what it was. I don't know if I was gassed or what. I just had to keep moving, and that was, to me, the most efficient way was to actually move rather than catch my breath and then swim and then catch my breath. I was like, I gotta move, and thankfully I did that because I barely made the cutoff time. The swim cutoff time was 1 hour and 10 minutes, and thank God I did it because I finished the swim in 1 hour. That's about a 3-minute pace per 100 yards. It was a lot slower than I expected, but also because of my sighting and because of my goggles and because I didn't get enough open water practice, I swam more than I needed to. I'll put the map here. Hopefully it tracks where I went. 2,200 yards is a 1.2 mile swim. I swam 3,000 yards. So I swam 800 or 900 yards more than I needed to. And that definitely added to my time. It was something that, again, I hope to be able to improve on by sighting correctly and to just get better in open water. There was a ton of people. I felt like I seated myself correctly in the correct pace group, but I just needed to get better. And for me, leading up to this race, the swim portion was my biggest hurdle. Having just learned how to swim 10 months ago, I wanted to focus on that, right? Like, there's no point in focusing on the bike and on the run if I don't make it out of the water. And so the majority of my training leading up to this race was swimming. I was going 2 to 3 times a week. But now that I've completed the swim, I now know what I need to work on. And that's sighting, that's open water swimming, and that's just calming down. The water was warmer than it had been in previous years. They actually made wetsuits optional. I decided to keep my wetsuit on. I think a lot of people decided to keep their wetsuits on. Oceanside is very famous for having super cold water just because it's the season opener. And it usually happens in April. This time it was in March. And so it was supposed to be super cold. But no, I think it was like 67 degrees. Not as cold as everybody prepared for it to be. But I'm glad because it was colder than that. In addition to my technique and me not being as efficient, I think the cold would have definitely impacted my swim. But yeah, I made it in 1 hour. Kendall was freaking out because she was tracking me, and me too. I had my watch. There's plenty of times where I'm swimming and I'm looking at my watch and I'm like, we got to be halfway now. And I think just familiarizing myself with the route of the swim route, I think would have set me up for better success, knowing how many yellow buoys I got to pass before I turn. There was times where I'm swimming and I'm like, there's a lifeguard or like somebody on a volunteer on the surfboard. I'm just like, we got to be halfway, right? And he's like, yeah, you're more than halfway. And so, just putting my head down and just like trying to get to the finish line. Yeah, it definitely felt longer than 1.2 miles, and that's because I did swim more than 1.2 miles. Definitely need to work on that. And so I finally make it to the ramp, and I'm getting helped up by these volunteers, and the volunteers are amazing. Everyone's super nice, super helpful. You run down the path that you were waiting to get into the water, and at the end of that pathway, there's wetsuit peelers. This gentleman was like, all right, lay down, and then like ripped off my wetsuit and helped me up and was like, go get him. And so that was really cool. It saved me at least, I don't know, 10 seconds of trying to take off my wetsuit. They were super nice. Finding my bike was super easy because I was near the cutoff point. There was not many people left in the water, and so there's not many bikes left in the transition zone. My bike is bright orange or mauve, as Cervelo would categorize it. And yeah, found my bike, took a gel. Now the bike section was my proudest moment of the entire race. Also, special shout out to, I believe his name is Andy. When we were checking at the hotel the day before, Uriel, Vinny, and myself, we were just hanging out in the parking lot, and we were trying to ask this gentleman where check-in was and all that kind of stuff. And he pointed us in the right direction, but he gave us a really useful tip. He said, for the first 2 miles, stay on your smaller front ring. And that's because the first hill, a 8% climb, comes up on you quick. And what you don't want to do is having to change your gears and dropping your chain. And sure enough, as soon as I turned the corner, I saw maybe 4 or 5 people with their chains dropped. And yeah, all I can think of was just us being in that parking lot at the right time, asking the right person, and that person giving us useful tips. And so I stayed on my small ring, was able to climb the hill, and then once we got to flat, I was able to actually just push the pace. Now, I averaged a pace of 16 miles per hour, which I'm pretty proud of. Oceanside is a super hilly course. The first 25 miles, kind of flat, other than, a couple of inclines. Leading up to the race, I may have done 4 or 5 long sessions. I think the longest being 60 miles. The race was 56 miles with occasional hills, but nothing crazy like the Oceanside hills. I actually wrote down all the hills here. The first hill is at mile 4. It's a half a mile at 6% grade. And so we hit that perfectly. At mile 30, for 0.8 miles, it's a 5 to 6% gradient, and it tops out at 12% incline, which is insane. The longest hill is mile 33 for 3 miles, an average of 3 to 4% gradient, and the highest is 9%. So basically the first 26 miles is going to be pretty flat and fast, and you got to save your legs for the tail end of the course. It's kind of crazy because the first maybe 10 miles, I saw so many broken bikes, so many people on the side of the road. Either they had punctures, some people were putting on spare tires, people lost a ton of water bottles, and it was kind of scary because the road conditions were kind of bumpy. There were huge like potholes that I got caught in a couple of, and like my wheel was in the wedge. But yeah, I was surprised to see how many people were on the side of the road just fixing their bikes or trying to get on, or they had fallen. Somebody had fallen, a couple of, I think maybe a half a mile in front of me, and there was an ambulance that took them off. So I didn't know what to expect. I've never ridden in those conditions, dodging water bottles and going over speed bumps and stuff like that. Thankfully for me, I didn't lose any water bottles. I think that's where the research comes into play, is making sure that you have cages that hold your water bottles, so make sure that you're not losing like a source of nutrition, and then just being able to ride safely and to be aware of your surroundings. Not saying that the people who had their bike technical difficulties weren't doing that, and honestly I just felt lucky because I could have very well easily been one of the people with a puncture or a flat tire or broken something, or so definitely felt lucky getting through the first 10-15 miles. My proudest moment was mile 30. that 0.8 mile stretch of 5 to 6% gradient, which tops out at 12%. You can see that hill from like miles out. And going into the race, they try to prepare you for that. There's nothing that will prepare you for that. Leading up to the race, during the athlete briefing, during the Q&As, all the course overview, the race director was like, don't feel bad if you have to get off your bike and walk your bike up. It's that steep. I wished I filmed it. I try to see during the pro coverage if they showed the steep hill, and there's a slight footage of it, but it's so steep. And I think 98% of people got off their bikes and walked up that hill. For me, I attribute it to indoor cycling classes because you're able to go, pretty tough and crank up the resistance and just pedal. But my proudest moment is not getting off my bike, just, pushing through. And I was going very slow. I think I was going like maybe 5 miles per hour up this hill. But yeah, I think after that hill, nothing could stop me. Finishing the swim and conquering that hill, like I was on cloud 9, like that I had already won. And, super proud of that moment. That was something that, I was looking forward to, was to just push myself and just reminding myself like why I decided to compete in the half Ironman. And that moment right there was like, you can get off your bike if you wanted to. Everyone's doing it. Like you can do that. It would be totally okay. It's a steep hill, but no, I'm super proud of myself for, staying on my bike, changing to like the smallest gear and just climbing that hill. And so that was definitely one of my proudest moments. And then everything else after that was downhill, like course wise. Oceanside is also known to have a zone in Camp Pendleton when you go through the base where you're going down so fast that there is a 25 mile per hour like speed limit, and if you go over that then you get DQ'd. But for this year they actually had new roads, so they took out the speed limit. They just implemented like 3 no pass zones. So if you're watching this and you're worried about that speed trap or that downhill speed, like they've taken that, just keep your eyes out for the no pass zones. I will say some of the no pass zones were pretty hard to spot. There were multiple times where I get to you're riding and then you see a sign that says no pass zone end, and I'm like, I didn't see where it began, but luckily like everybody was pretty spaced out. But yeah, Oceanside bike path was brutal. But I'm really proud of myself for pushing through. And then the half marathon at the end was honestly just a victory lap. I had completed the hardest things already: the swim, the bike, coming out unscathed, not hurt, not injured, didn't fall, didn't have any technical difficulties. Keno and I had mapped out beforehand where we were going to see each other, and that was 1.5 miles. Leading up to this point, I think I was like maybe 5 hours into the race without seeing any friends or family or any support, just going off of conversations with other competitors or seeing random people out in the bike paths. Coming out the gate, I was running way too fast. I was like 9-minute mile pace. I think where I wanted to run was 10:30 to 11:30, just to make sure I had the legs for the entire run. Leading up to this race, every brick training that I did, I would always cramp up after 2 or 3 miles. And after putting my body through all the stress that I did earlier on race day, I didn't know where I'd be. The swim, I had to use way more legs than I had to. And then I had to bike, more miles than I ever did after a swim. And then now I'm gonna have to run more miles than I ever did off a bike. And so, that was going to be a true test, but at least I knew like the hardest part was done. And so, after I saw my friends and family at 1.5 miles, it was just, time to lock in. The course is a 2-loop course. You start from the transition area and you run all the way down, the boardwalk, all the way down to some neighborhoods, and then you loop back around. It was very hot. By that time, all the clouds, all the overcasts had been burned off, and it got really hot. But once I hit 3 miles and I was feeling good, like I said, it was just a victory lap. Like it was, there's no losing today, especially after the swim, especially after the bike. And my first real test was 3 miles. Now I want to take this time. I don't know when this video is going to come out, if I'm going to have this portion in a separate video, or I'm just going to include it here. A week before Oceanside 70.3, I did something that honestly was a saving grace for my entire race. My cramping issues and all that kind of stuff. I decided to invest in a sweat test. I went on Precision Hydration, which is the official sponsor for Ironman, and found a partner with them here in Southern California called Performance LA. I left a message and I was like, hey, I would love to do a sweat test. And, I have Oceanside in a week. I don't know how soon you can get me in. I don't know how soon it'll take you to get results. And Lucas from Performance LA actually reached out right away. I didn't answer because I didn't recognize the phone number, but he left me a voicemail and I called him right back. And he said, hey, I'm actually going to be competing in Oceanside, but if you're interested, I can drive to you and do a sweat test and get you the results instantly. That way it gives you a chance to practice hydration leading up to the race. And for those of you that don't know, the sweat test measures how much sodium you're losing in your sweat. And so I think this answered all of my questions about the LA Marathon. If you watched that video, you know that I bonked around mile 19 and I was confused because I was hydrating. I had a water pack on me. I drank a ton of water, but I still cramped up and I couldn't figure out why. This answered that. And so Lucas came over and we knocked out the sweat test in about an hour. I've seen some other videos where people do sweat tests and they actually make you work out and then they send that sweat test sample to a lab and then you wait a week and then you're able to know. Actually, the sweat test I did with Performance LA was instant. I didn't actually have to work out at all, which was great. He put a device on my forearm and I think it localized some sort of like stimulation that makes me sweat in this just like small area. And from there, he's able to plug that sample into this little machine and I was able to get my results right away. And through that test, I was able to figure out that I lost like 901 milligrams of sodium per liter of sweat. And I was able to pick Lucas's brain and talk to him about different products and how to hydrate and how to replenish. And it answered all my questions about nutrition. And I actually had a solid plan going into the race. And so my nutrition plan going into the race was 90 grams of carbs per hour and 1,000 milligrams of sodium per hour, and making sure I stay on top of that so that I am replenishing the sodium that my body is sweating out. And I think that's where I went wrong with the LA Marathon, honestly, because I was drinking a ton of water and I wasn't taking on any sodium. And so my body couldn't hold on to any of the water because I'd flushed all the salt out. And Lucas said that's actually a really common thing that people mistake for being hydrated. You can be drinking water and still be dehydrated. And that's exactly what I was for the LA Marathon. And so now, equipped with this knowledge, I was able to at least attack the nutrition side of the half Ironman with more data and actual science behind it. And I felt ready. And honestly, when I hit 3 miles on the run and I didn't bonk and I didn't cramp up, I was amazed because it worked, right? It's science, right? You're replenishing your body with carbs, which I also didn't do in the LA Marathon, and you're feeding your body and you're keeping it, hydrated. You can go for much longer. Like, what a concept, right? And so having that, plan going into the race and being able to execute that on time and knowing what your body needs as you adjust depending on how much you sweat, honestly gave me the best chance to finish the race. They say the triathlon is swim, bike, run, and the fourth leg is nutrition. And so honestly, I was just amazed at how, I was able to keep the energy, how I wasn't cramping up, how energized I was. and how focused I was. I didn't even take any caffeine in my nutrition. I think maybe I took one gel pack of caffeine at mile 6 on the run. All of my worries about nutrition were gone. Like, there's no guessing work. And so if you're watching this still, if you are, thank you. I would heavily invest in a sweat test and know your nutrition numbers so that you can give yourself a good chance at finishing the race. Nutrition was the biggest question mark for me, and I'm so happy that we figured that out. And that was a week before the race. That was one of the best investments I ever did in terms of my training. But yeah, finished the half marathon at 11-minute pace, and finished the last mile 13, the fastest mile than the majority of my miles. And so, I always wanted to end strong, and I'm proud of myself for doing that. But yeah, honestly, Oceanside 70.3 was a dream come true. I couldn't have asked for a better result. I knew that I put my best foot forward, and I honestly put in the time, put in the work, and invested in the right, aspects of the game. And I did all that I could. I couldn't be disappointed in the results. The official finish time for me was 7 hours, 25 minutes, and 36 seconds. And I absolutely enjoyed every single second. I really put my all out there. And again, I'm just so proud of being able to set out for Oceanside 70.3 and actually accomplishing it. And at the end, like, seeing all my friends and family at the finish line, waiting all day for me to finish, was the perfect ending. To see, my village pretty much show up. Everybody had a hand in getting me to the finish line. Everyone had a hand in getting me to the start line. And for them to be at the end of such a challenging race was so worth it. But yeah, I really enjoyed Oceanside 7.3. The most challenging part of this entire race prep, or the race itself, wasn't the physical aspect. It wasn't the early workout sessions or the long workout sessions, because you just had to show up for those. For me, it was all mental. It was all, moving the goalposts back, because my timeline and my algorithm started getting too elite, where finishing the half Ironman wasn't good enough. I had to finish under X time. It was learning how to dial that back, learning how to be okay with the process. My therapist was like, why did you set out to do the half Ironman in the first place? And I said, to challenge myself. And she said, well, then let it be just that. And that really helped me reframe a lot of things. Challenging myself when, my mentality is not the greatest, where I'm being hard on myself and I'm comparing myself, challenging myself in being able to sit in this and being able to be comfortable with not having the next thing to look forward to. And so, I'm proud to say, like, mission accomplished. And so that leads us to this week, and it is currently May 5th. And, I decided to sign up for the 70.3 in La Quinta, happening on December 6th. That gives us about 7 months. Now that course is a much faster course. It's not as hilly. It's all flat. I'm excited to put in the work to see how else my swim improves. And then everything else is just a plus. I took a month off, didn't train, really enjoyed time away from, the pool, the bike, the runs, and really just enjoy not training, enjoy eating whatever I wanted to eat, even though, like, during the training process, I didn't really watch what I ate that bad, but just really allowing myself to enjoy that, and having some time off and spending it with my wife, because it's a huge ask, like when I go and train for this half Ironman, there's Saturdays are gone because I'm out training, or I'm going to sleep early at night, and being up early in the morning just to go swim. And, it takes time away from, your loved ones and your friends and their sacrifices that you have to make. And so I really wanted to take the month off to be able to, be present and be more present and to give some time back. And so, yeah, we have 7 months until 70.3 La Quinta. And I just want to say thank you guys for your patience. Thank you for your support, every engagement, every comment. I know I haven't been as consistent, but I hope over the next 7 months, as we go into La Quinta, I'm able to bring you guys along more for the journey. I have some exciting news for the channel soon. Hopefully some partners, hopefully some sponsorships, hopefully some crossovers. And I wouldn't be able to do this without you guys and without my friends and family and the support system I have. And so I hope that by you guys watching, you guys are seeing somebody figure out in real time. Everybody I see on YouTube is an elite athlete, and I am not that. I kind of want to just meet people where they're at and give people a real look and what that looks like from somebody that's working a job and balancing family life and other endeavors and trying to do triathlons and working towards a full Ironman and what that entails. And so I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And we will see you on a race prep for La Quinta 70.3.